Hey guys, Zaif the Scholar here. So, when I go to work on an Elden Ring video, one of the things I end up spending the most time on is just going around and capturing footage and exploring around different areas with FreeCam mods. But what you may not realize if you haven't done this before is that there's a lot of interesting stuff programmed into the game that the player never really gets to see under normal circumstances. For instance, if you've made it to the final boss of the DLC, you probably remember that when you enter Promised Consort Radahn's boss room, he's pretty much on top of you trying to kill you as soon as you get through the fog gate. And that makes sense, since if you clip through the fog, you can see that he's just standing roughly in the middle of the arena, fairly near the entrance, just waiting for us. What a jerk. But did you notice the first time you fight Radahn, he actually starts way back towards the Divine Gate? This is because a lot of the cutscenes in Elden Ring are staged in real time using in-game models, rather than being pre-rendered video files. So Radahn has to be near the Divine Gate the first time to be in the right spot for his cutscene. If I revert to a save before I watch the cutscene and clip into the arena, we can find Radahn stoically standing in front of the Divine Gate, arms folded, sword stabbed into the ground. And for a second, I thought his feet were gone just like in his base game model, but it turns out they're just clipped through the floor. Maybe this is a shortcut for getting his swords to look like they're actually planted underground. And once the cutscene gets rolling, he springs into action. It's pretty cool to see from a distance how FromSoft manipulates the lighting and effects for each of the different camera angles to get dramatic looking shots. But Radahn, of course, isn't the only boss with this sort of interesting pre-fight staging. Which brings us to today's focus, Messmer the Impaler. Sort of like Radahn, Messmer doesn't really waste much time trying to kill us as soon as we enter his dark room through the fog gate. But if we instead clip through the door before fighting him for the first time, we see something sort of sad. Well, if we light a torch anyway. We find Messmer just sort of sitting in his chair in pitch black darkness, in front of the statue depicting him being cradled as an infant by Marika. Imagining Messmer just sitting there in the dark, ruminating for days on end about being abandoned by his mother makes me feel even more sympathetic for the guy than I already did. But anyway, as I was capturing some footage of Messmer and this statue for another video I was working on, I stumbled upon something that kinda creeped me out. When I accidentally clipped through the platform that his chair is perched on, I noticed some creepily wriggling shapes off in the distance. I couldn't immediately tell what they were, but if we light a torch and move in for a closer look, we can find a second Messmer, already spawned in this area in his second form, hiding in the walls. Now, I'm by no means a game developer, but from what I've been able to find, this is a fairly common trick used by FromSoft to avoid having to load up the model for Messmer's second form in the middle of the fight. I guess it's less resource intensive to load up 2 Messmers ahead of time. But if anyone out there with more technical knowledge wants to drop some details in the comments, that would be really cool. If we sync up the cutscene and FreeCam and view them side by side, we can again see all kinds of interesting tricks with lighting and effects happening behind the scenes to make each shot and angle look extra dramatic.
Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death.
Notice how each time the camera angle changes, the lighting of the entire area shifts to accommodate it. Something I never realized and didn't really give much thought before.
In the embrace of Messmer's flame. I will not suffer. A lord devoid of light. No, Mother, forgive me.
We can see here the exact moment that the character model for Messmer's first form is swapped out for the one hiding in the wall. It's also pretty neat how this scene where Messmer's snake casts a shadow on the wall is achieved by shining an intense spotlight on the snake.
Soon tarnished. Wilt thou be taken in the jaws of the abyssal serpent, shorn of light?
As a complete layperson when it comes to making games, I always find these sorts of tricks with lighting and character models to be pretty fascinating. And speaking of multiple models, did you notice that during the fight with Messmer's second form, he actually attacks us with two different kinds of abyssal serpents? I was so busy trying not to die my first playthrough that I honestly didn't notice. But when I was capturing some combat footage, I realized that one snake model seems to represent a transformed version of Messmer himself, as indicated by a large empty eye socket and a closed eye on the other side, as well as some strands of red hair. The other snake model is used for attacks where Messmer remains on screen, and doesn't have any of these Messmer-like features. Although one thing that these snakes have in common that was pointed out by Reddit user Shuviri is that the inside of their mouths as well as the surface of their bodies are covered in numerous red eyes. I'm not sure what these mean in terms of lore implications, but I am somewhat reminded of Godwyn's eyes that we find sprouting out of Deathroot, as well as the corrupted roots of the Erdtree. If you guys have any other ideas though, please let me know. But yeah, finding a Messmer hiding in the floor seemed like something interesting enough to merit sharing. And for the record, this isn't the first or only time that FromSoft has hidden a boss model out of bounds in Elden Ring. As discovered by Reddit user Nicknot and highlighted by Zuli the Witch in this video in the card, this same technique was also used to hide Godfrey's second form out of bounds as well. If we clip through the floor of his arena, we can find his second form just kinda standing there with his hands up, completely invincible, waiting for the boss phase change to happen. So yeah, no huge lore revelations with this video, but I just wanted to share some hopefully interesting bits of random knowledge that I found with you guys. And I actually discover these sorts of small, strange oddities fairly often. So if you like this sort of thing, please let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to make more content like this. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. It really helps out my channel a lot and I genuinely appreciate it. And hey, I'd also appreciate it if you considered supporting my channel by becoming a patron, a YouTube member, or buying me a coffee. Thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.